Hi, this is John Rowell for the Rowell Report. Today is Friday, January 9th, 2026. And the question is, why does the United States need Greenland? So here we have the United States, and we have over here Greenland. So what's the deal? Why does the United States need Greenland? So this is the point of this video. I'm going to go through what I see are the primary reasons for Greenland. So let's zoom on out here, and we have Panama. And you say, what does Panama have to do with Greenland? Okay, so somewhere in here we have the Panama Canal. So here we go. We have the Panama Canal. And so here we go, the Panama Canal. You say, again, what does this have to do with Greenland? Why are we looking at Panama? So the whole thing is the U.S. is reasserting itself in hegemony. Hegemony is world control. This world control does not go by boundaries, does not go by laws, does not go by agreements. This is the big dog wanting to show all the other dogs that are getting bigger that it's still the big dog, and it's still in charge. And it's also teaching all the little dogs that when it barks, they need to bark too. So this is where lots of world shipping goes. But let's say the United States decides to cut off the Panama Canal and say, okay, China, Russia, all those countries who don't bow down to the United States or Donald Trump, you can't go through the Panama Canal anymore. That's just for us, all our friends, all our buddies. So then what are those countries going to do? So then they got to go all the way down here to South America. Okay, so who do we have to one side? We have Argentina, and on the other side we have Chile. So are both basically allies of the United States? Yes. And do both have navies? Yes. And where is the Falkland Islands? So here's the Falkland Islands. The Falkland Islands is the South American version of Greenland. This is where the UK can have a port and can control at some point who comes through this body of water. And better yet, if Argentina and Chile are on the side of the Allies, of course, both do heavily do business with the United States. Chile exports a lot to the United States. Argentina right now is basically being funded by the United States, and their last election took place under the threat of the lack or the loss of financial support, which basically guaranteed that Javier Milei won the election. So we have South America could be cut off, the UK and the US and the Falklands helped by Argentina and Chile. And then we have Panama Canal. Okay, no one getting through there. Okay. And we have Greenland. So Greenland cuts off any ships moving to the north of Greenland. And of course, the United States has Alaska. So now if Russia shipping can still go north of Russia and come through this body of water, and the Bering Strait, I guess the Bering Strait or the Bering Sea. So anyway, the Bering, yeah, it's going to be Bering something. So anyway, so China, let's say China wants to get its goods by ship to, I don't know, Brazil. Starting to get a little crooked here. Okay. Tilt. I don't want any tilt. Okay, so getting this planet a little off kilter. But anyway, China would move its goods across the Pacific through the Panama Canal into Venezuela, into Brazil. So this cuts off shipping from China to Brazil and Venezuela. If the United States cuts off the Panama Canal, that's why Trump wanted it back. And they can't go down underneath if the UK and the US have their warships here, and assisted by Argentina and Chile. Now let's look up here. So we have Russia basically would be cut off by a blockade, a Norway-USA blockade in case the USA takes over Greenland. We have a Norway-USA blockade of Russia. So basically, Russia would only be able to... now we're really out of kilter. Okay, what's going on? Okay. Here we go. So, anyway, we have the possibility of U.S. cutting off any ship movement through this area, and then it would be assisted also by their ally Iceland. So USA, Iceland, Norway would be kind of like forming a blockade. Now let's the Suez Canal. That would be controlled by the US and the UK. So then Russia would have, instead of being able to have their ships go through the Suez Canal, they'd have to go out through the Mediterranean. But guess what's at the end of the Mediterranean? Yes, we have Gibraltar. So where is Gibraltar? Okay, here we have Gibraltar. So the UK would be here, and that would block trade. And eventually what the US, UK want to do is to create the NATO lake, which is the Black Sea. So they're doing everything they can to shut down the Ukraine-Russia war as quickly as possible to conserve the Ukraine presence on the Black Sea. Otherwise, if Russia gets to Odessa, cuts off all access of Ukraine to the Black Sea, then Russia basically will control the Black Sea. But if Ukraine eventually has a peace deal with Russia, then the US, UK, France will create their military hubs here, and eventually they will begin to attack the Russian ships over by Novorossiysk. So then down below, Madagascar, they recently had a Gen Z revolution. That's one of those USAID, National NED, National Endowment for Democracy, Soros Open Society, or whatever they call it, fund. So there was recently a Gen Z revolution in Madagascar. So we see that eventually the Madagascar will be pulled into the US-UK hub. And somewhere over here, we have St. Helena, which is where Napoleon spent his last days. The US, UK would have their ships there. So basically the point is the US, UK want to do total naval blockades on the planet, and to create, to clog up the travel ways, and then force Russia, China, other allies to come through very narrow areas where they can be bombed with drones, or their ships can be caught by pirates. So this is basically the whole thing behind Greenland. There's nothing to do with the minerals or it's funny that they haven't run some story about the abuse of human rights on Greenland. Um, and the abuse of the sled dogs, or the poor indigenous person who is being threatened by the authoritarian ruler in Greenland. So the U.S. has decided not to go with some phony narrative to take over Greenland. They want the Greenland people to sign on to the U.S. willingly and to abandon Denmark. And some people are talking about $10,000 payments. Well, Denmark already gives the people in Greenland $12,000 payments. They have free health care. There's plenty of benefits for those who live in Greenland. So they're going to have to up that offer if they want to buy off the people of Greenland. And if you see the U.S. taking Greenland, this is basically the continuation of agendas. So the U.S. slowly is trying to reassert itself militarily and to cut off the countries like Russia, China, India from rivaling the United States in global hegemony. So, and now let's hear from President Trump himself, what he has to say about Greenland. So this kind of reaffirms what I've already been saying. So anyway, let's go with President Trump.
Because if we don't do it, Russia or China will take over Greenland, and we're not going to have Russia or China as a neighbor. Okay? I would like to make a deal, the easy way, but if we don't do it the easy way, we're going to do it the hard way.
So there you have it. It's the easy way or the hard way. Either the people from Greenland can get rich, sign on to the U.S., the best offer they ever made, or they can get ready to defend this long coastline that was impossible to defend. So what is it? And Denmark has just come out with all these weak statements. Okay, what's ours? Stay away. Let's just be friends. Let's talk. Again, that doesn't work with President Trump. Did you see what he did in Venezuela? Did you see what he's done elsewhere? They just show up and take over. So I think the whole thing about Greenland is that this is part of the effort that President Trump wants to make before the end of his presidency. He wants to reassert the global hegemony of the United States on the planet, and Greenland is part of that. So anyway, if you have any comments to make regarding this whole Greenland thing, please do so below. And I appreciate that. I can't go over every comment, but I ask that everyone be respectful and make helpful comments or informational comments. What is it that the United States and President Trump sees in Greenland? If it's not the rush for global hegemony, what is it? So thanks for joining me. If you like this video, please hit the like button, share, and subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you back for the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.